So, an army of podcasters and metaverse influencers have been feeding the public recycled stories for some years now. I'm guilty, myself, of recycling a few of these stories. The truth is, most of these stories, for example, Diddy being the culprit in Kim Porter's death, and the phony pneumonia diagnosis in particular, these stories have never held up under real scrutiny. That's why it's been almost impossible to prosecute Diddy on any of these claims. We have been listening to a bunch of noise, and my opinion of the reckoning is just that, more noise. They ask why jurors ruled the way they did in Diddy's case, but at the end of the day, there was no real case presented against Diddy. And honestly, I think that's the bigger story. Coupled with the question of why a documentary with this much hype still couldn't deliver anything solid. When you erase key facts, rely on shaky voices, and refuse to touch the real players involved, you're not seeking truth. I've done my own research, deep dives into Tupac, Biggie, DeathRow Records, and the politics behind all of it. I started in July of 2023, and one thing has always stood out in my humble findings, loud and clear, that the LAPD's fingerprints are all over these homicides, unalivings, or whatever you guys like to call it. So after watching The Reckoning, shoulder shrug. Too many witnesses omitted, too many suppressed details, too many LAPD officers tied to DeathRow Records not mentioned, spin narratives, too many players dead, including Russell Poole. So when a documentary on Diddy comes out and completely skips over these pieces of the puzzle, yeah, I noticed. Puffy and Andre Harrell may have been the culprits in the New York Quad Studio case, but DeathRow Records and the LAPD that worked with and for DeathRow Records took out two of our biggest, best artists, Pac and Biggie. I've even been bullied by Bomb's First channel as well because of these findings. I'm not trying to go after anyone. It's just something that I started, and it led me to certain specific people. So there was a short stint where people believed Orlando Anderson was the killer. And that narrative kind of lasted for a long time because, of course, Russell Poole died. And so until 23, in July, when Keefe D was picked up, that narrative was in place.
I've been thinking, maybe I'm a scapegoat or something. I just want to let everybody know. You know what I'm saying? I didn't do
Isn't it ironic?
I've been thinking, maybe I'm a scapegoat or something.
The people chosen to speak in the film didn't help its credibility. They bring in Greg Kading. Greg Kading? The same man whose entire narrative has been disputed by people who were there.
Okay, so Greg Kading, who has been featured on numerous Fed channels like Vlad TV and The Art of Dialogue, to name a few, was hired to protect the city of Los Angeles and ensure the estate of the late notorious B.I.G. Christopher Wallace does not win their wrongful death case against the city. Kading is no hero. Nor is Kading a pursuer of the truth. Kading and his task force was created for one reason and one reason only: make sure all the dirty cop involvement in these cases are hidden and dismissed. He's a plant and pawn and has caused more confusion, lies, and diversion than any other character in the investigation into Tupac and Biggie's murders. It's time for him to be exposed for his part in this deception.
When you platform him and ignore the LAPD corruption that was literally documented in court filings, death policies cashed out on Tupac, overheard conversations, and none of these people, of course, are living today, but it starts feeling like less of a documentary and more like a controlled narrative, a little propaganda-ish, the recycled information. Now, it's interesting that both Puffy and 50 Cent, who supposedly supposedly is the executive producer of the film, they come from stories that are centered around alleged street legends. So, patterns matter. Melvin Combs, Puffy's father, was reportedly connected to the infamous Harlem drug lord Frank Lucas, and affiliations matter. It's also alleged that 50 Cent's, Curtis Jackson's father, is Supreme McGriff. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a myth or a rumor out there in the metaverse. And when the people connected to these institutions like the LAPD, the CIA, and the FBI, when they start dictating the narrative, you gotta ask yourself, who is this film really protecting? Because it's definitely not protecting the truth. From the beginning, there were weird discrepancies in this Diddy case. Tyrone Blackburn being one. He's playing the lawyer for all of these cases against these high-profile people connected to Diddy, like T.D. Jakes, and none of those cases went anywhere. I mean, to date, I'm not 100% convinced that Tyrone Blackburn isn't an actor. Someone sent in to muddy up the waters, per se. Show from the very beginning, something is just not right. And the way that it ended with this prosecution not bringing forth any real evidence against him, it's just a really, really weird thing. So the fact that after decades, with all the interest in interviews and documentaries and investigation, no one has produced credible legal grade proof linking Diddy to any of these massive crimes attached to him. Little Rod had pictures of a crime scene, but no one can find the victim. I mean, come on, rumors, gossip, and even repeated stories are not evidence. And when you make a documentary and you show us how Diddy asked for hand sanitizer after greeting a lot of people, I mean, that's really nothing. I know so many teachers who do the same thing when they end their workday because they've been with, especially elementary school teachers. So, I mean, that's just, I mean, what does that prove? They did have guns that they found in the house, and they weren't even presented in the case. And I'm telling you, the Little Rod lawsuit with Tyrone Blackburn, reading that case, if he had gotten what he wanted, and it wasn't even $250,000, I think it was really $50,000 that they said he asked for initially. If he would have gotten that $50,000, we wouldn't have heard of any of this. You need evidence that can survive cross-examination, legal standards. Of course, he beat Cassie, so we know that he's a woman beater. There was so much more, and there has been so much more attached to this man, especially Kim Porter. I really just don't want to hear any more about Kim Porter if no one has any evidence to bring forth. And it just seems like a bunch of propaganda. It's very possible that Sean Combs paid for something to happen to them, but it was LAPD and Death Row that did it. Despite decades of speculation, no formal charges have been brought against Diddy. I think it's just all about making money. Decades of documentaries, podcasts, rumors, and recycled street stories haven't added up to a single prosecutable fact. That's why no charges stuck. So when you bring forth things like this and you negate real evidence, the case simply wasn't presented. And maybe that's really the real headline. For all the noise, nobody has brought the receipts. Until they do, everything else is just storytelling, dressed up as truth. This is Gigi. Peace.